The situation in Tunisia remains tense after the government was ousted. Many observers are also concerned internationally. US Secretary of State Blinken made an urgent appeal to President Saïed. After President Kais Saied's disempowerment of the Tunisian government, international concerns about democracy in the northern African country are growing. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken called on Saïed in a phone call on Monday to respect the principles of democracy and human rights. There had to be an open dialogue with all political actors in Tunisia. The dismissed Prime Minister Hichem Mechichi announced that he would hand over the office to a successor chosen by Saïed. Saïed had surprisingly announced the dismissal of Mechichi and the temporary suspension of the work of parliament on Sunday evening, and declared that he would take over the business of government with the help of a new head of government. The president also announced the lifting of the immunity of all MPs. On Monday, he fired Defense Minister Ibrahim Bataji and Interim Justice Minister Hansa Ben Slimane. The dismissals were preceded by protests against the government's corona crisis management in several Tunisian cities. While Saïed emphasized that his actions were in accordance with the constitution, the Islamist ruling party Ennahda accused him of a coup. On Monday, supporters of both political sides fought street fights in Tunis. In the event, the president's office announced an extension of the existing night curfew by 2 hours. In addition, gatherings with more than 3 participants were banned. Internationally, the political crisis in Tunisia was a cause for concern. The Foreign Office in Berlin called for a quick return to constitutional order in the country. The federal government believes that the suspension of parliamentary work announced by Head of State Saïed is a very broad interpretation of the constitution, said a spokeswoman. Well, that's diplomatically speaking. France also called for a swift return to normal governance. The EU called on the people of Tunisia to stay peaceful. The US government stressed that Tunisia should not squander its democratic successes. US presidential spokeswoman Jen Psaki said it was too early to say whether Saïed had carried out a coup. The US State Department will analyze this. Washington must stop aid to governments that came to power after the overthrow of an elected government, according to US law. Journalists and human rights organizations denounced the closure of the offices of the Qatari TV channel Al Jazeera in Tunis. Officials had gained access and asked us to leave the office, said office manager Lotfi Haji to the AFP news agency, who saw the action as evidence that freedoms of the press is in danger. Reporters Without Borders and Amnesty International also condemned the office closure. In Tunis, meanwhile, ex-Prime Minister Mechichi expressed himself for the first time since his dismissal. He said, "I will ensure the transfer of power to the person appointed by the President of the Republic." Tunisian politics had been determined in the past few months by a power struggle between Mechichi and the President of Parliament and Ennahda chairman Rached Ghannouchi on the one hand and President Saïed on the other. The economic crisis exacerbated by the corona pandemic caused additional resentment among the population. In the country of 12 million people, more than 18,000 people died in connection with COVID-19. Recently, the number of corona cases rose rapidly again. Tunisia has long been considered a model country of the Arab Spring, which ended the rule of long-term ruler Zine El Abidine Ben Ali in 2011. However, there have been 9 different governments in 10 years since then. Some only lasted a few months, which made the urgently needed economic and administrative reforms de facto impossible. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.